Introducing to you first on my left, he is fighting out of the red corner. Entering the ring wearing white trunks with gold trim, hailing from Carolina, Puerto Rico. He weighed in at 146 1/4 pounds. His record stands at 25 wins, 3 losses and 1 draw, with 16 wins coming by way of knockout. Introducing the long-time respected world rank contender, introducing Thomas Dulorme. And his opponent across the ring on my right, fighting out of the blue corner, wearing black trunks with gold trim, fighting out of and representing his home of Minneapolis, Minnesota. He weighed in at a trim and ready 145 3/4 pounds. His record stands at 26 wins and 1 loss, with 12 wins coming by way of knockout. Here is the dynamic world rank contender, introducing Jamal Shango James. And a referee in charge now to give instructions, right, Thomas Taylor.
All right, belt line is good here, gentlemen. Belt line is good here. I gave your instructions in the back. Protect yourselves at all times. Listen to my commands. Touch them up. Back to your corner, gentlemen. Good loot.
Ready good now for the main event. Mark. For Fox Bet, if you bet $100 on the favorite, Jamal James, James would win you $50. If you bet $100 on the underdog, Thomas Dulorme, you'd win $150 with a payout of $250. So James is the favorite, but this is expected to be close, and we are underway. Round number 1. Brian Kenny with Joe Goosen and Lennox Lewis. Joe Lennox and Heidi Androl there in Los Angeles. And we are underway here. I know, Joe, we were talking before this fight. Dulorme can come out firing. He has heavy, heavy hands, and he is the shorter puncher in this fight. I wonder how James is going to do on the inside. What do you expect to see?
I expect to see James to want to control this fight from the outside. He's a very good boxer. He's very accurate. He's got a great variety of punches. And if you touch Jamal James, he will touch you back 2-3 times. So he can get the job done from the outside. Of course, the action's going to get on the inside sooner or later, but they can both fight on the inside. Don't kid yourself.
Yeah, these guys like to trade, and they're both coming off tough fights, too. Dulorme comes off a win over Terrell Williams, and that was a good firefight. And Jamal James really went at it with Antonio DeMarco. That was an action fight, hard fought. So these guys like to throw, even though James comes in, as I mentioned, again, 6'2". That is very tall for a man in this division at 147 pounds.
Isn't it funny that Dulorme said his toughest fight was against the southpaw? DeMarco. Okay.
You're just throwing that at me. I get it. Southpaws, they frighten you.
He said it. No, he said it, not me. Okay.
And Dulorme's punches are short and choppier. Again, he can hurt you with either hand. When he got that last-second knockdown on Jesse Vargas to get a draw, it was a short right hand. There's a wild right hand. James able to get out of danger. James, on his part, has won 6 straight since his 1 pro loss against the talented Yordenis Ugas, who we'll see here on Fox in the next couple of weeks. But you see the height difference. James is the much taller fighter, and right now able to fight a bit at range.
Yeah, and the funny thing about it is, if you really examine the stats, Dulorme's got a 73-inch reach compared to what looks like the taller, longer guy, Jamal James, with a 70-inch reach. So Dulorme, actually, the shorter man, has a longer reach.
Which is hard.
Do you believe that?
I know. It doesn't look like it to me.
Almost everyone that Jamal James fights has a longer reach.
What?
I'm telling you. I looked at it.
Well, Jamal James is a great boxer, and, you know, this is what he needs to do in this fight, is to box. He needs to keep Dulorme on the outside. Yeah. James, I was going to say, James has to be light on his feet like he's being, you know, doesn't want to stand there and get hit with no silly shots, so he's moving around the ring nicely.
Yeah, it's, you know, you got to be effective when you back up like this, and he's capable of doing that. But there's a nice right hand by Dulorme to the body.
Right there. That called Pursuit of Discipline, a group that mentors young men and women in the gym looking to make a better life. So when everything broke loose in Minneapolis, he was already very well involved in all of that. I know, Lennox, we didn't get to go to you after we saw Jamal James and what he does in his own community. Your thoughts on James and what he has meant to his own home city?
You know, what he's done is remarkable. I take my hat off to him. You know, what he's doing with the kids, because they're the future. You know, I'm doing the same thing on my side, Lennox Lewis League of Champions. So hopefully, you know, me and him can get together and do some good things for both of our communities.
He said, Lennox, that he's trying to be the calm in the storm. And he's in the middle of Minneapolis on a daily basis, wants to go back with a win. But as we mentioned, this could be a tough fight. Dulorme able to counter and throw that jab to the body. 2 jabs to the body. Now, combination that lands on James.
Well, you saw James, he got hung up on the ropes for a second, and that allowed Dulorme to close the gap and land a good right hand, left hook to the body. So, you know, if James is smart, he'll use the center of the ring more. If he feels those ropes, he'll get off of them right away. But he landed a couple nice combos right there from a distance. That's what he should be doing all night, Brian.
Chopping right hand there from James. Dulorme, again, 25-3-1. It didn't blow you away, but the only blemishes on his record have come to the highest level of competition. Terrence Crawford, Udanis Ugas, and then that spirited draw I mentioned against Jesse Vargas. So that's where he's taken a loss or a draw. He has been put in very, very tough in his career. Good right hand to the body by Dulorme.
Oh. Boy, that was a nice combination right there, Brian, by Jamal James. That's what he's capable of doing. If he can keep you on the end of those punches, Dulorme could have a long night. And believe me, Jamal James also takes a great punch. So, you know, he's not the type of guy who's just going to get taken out with one punch.
Yeah, this is what I was afraid of with Dulorme, you know, winding up with that right hand. You know, hearing from his trainer, Diaz said that, you know, he had to settle him down a little bit more, and he has to be throwing straighter punches. But, you know, hopefully he can get him back in that corner, settle him down, and let him throw some straighter punches instead of those looping right hand punches, because all he's doing is telling the guy he's throwing it.
James is doubling up on the jab nicely now and letting his hands go here in the second round. Some very nice combination work by Jamal James. He's in the black trunks, Dulorme in the white.
Yeah, Jamal James just made a nice juke move right off of the ropes. He moved left real quick and then back right, and he left Dulorme in the dust as he got off the ropes. And he's going to have to really fight very with a lot of concentration when Dulorme gets close, because he's very powerful. And that's he just took a right hand on the ropes there. He's got to be careful. This is the bad spot for Jamal James to be.
Yeah, Jamal James shouldn't be in this position. He's got to be more consistent with his jab.
That next one.
I don't know, who was that?
That was his dad.
Was it? Couldn't tell with the mask there. Again, that's Mikey Garcia, top welterweight. And look, the welterweight division, that's what we mentioned. James is ranked number 9 in the ESPN rankings, not in the ring rankings. But, I mean, think about Mikey Garcia, Danny Garcia, Spence, Crawford, Pacquiao, Thurman, Sean Porter, who we spoke to, your guy, Joe, Sergey Lipinets, Ugas, Virgil Ortiz. I mean, it's just jam-packed.
Man, a lot of frightening competition out there since I got a guy right in the thick of things. Sergey Lipinets, who's got a fight coming up, obviously, October 10th.
Early on here, you see Dulorme firing off a right hand, more compact, firing off that shot, but blocked by James. James, early on here, at least got hit there, able to control the distance fairly nicely. Joe, what are your thoughts early on?
Yeah, no, I think you're exactly right. And Jamal just landed a nice, you know, short 4-punch combination. Dulorme, though, if he gets close, he's going to hit you on the arms, body, anywhere. And look, he's putting pressure on. This wears you out. It's going to be up to Jamal James to be fleet of foot and very quick from the outside all night tonight.
And Jamal James is doing the right thing. Every time he gets backed up against the ropes, he moves one way or the other, or he throws a check hook. And the check hook is supposed to make Dulorme go to the right side, and so he can slip off to the left.
Let me ask you, fellas, you're there in Los Angeles in the theater. How bad is that blood on James? I just see a little bit of bleeding under the nose.
Well, last round he got popped when he was sitting on the ropes with that shot, and he walked back to his corner rubbing his nose. So he felt it, but you know, these guys' noses are they've been tenderized for a long time, so they'll brush that off pretty quick.
Sometimes it can affect a fighter, especially early in the fight, because it can affect his breathing right now. So it may affect him later in the fight.
That's good.
Tell you what, James is really putting his foot on the gas right now. He was firing shots. That's a hard body shot again. James is really getting after it now. He is fired up.
Yeah. James can do this. He can throw the straight punches because Dulorme winds up when he throws his punches. So hopefully he can catch him in the middle of throwing that punch and hurt Dulorme.
James putting on the pressure now. He had Dulorme back, but you see Dulorme able to bide his time, fires off a hard right hand and a hard right to the body.
Yeah, you know, Jamal James landed a good body shot and right hand. He doubled up on the right hand earlier, but he's got to be careful exchanging this early in the fight. He's got 12 rounds. We're in the third round only. Dulorme is still very strong. He's got a great coach, a great trainer, and Joel Diaz, and believe me, he's in shape for this fight.
We're going to stay right here between rounds. That was outstanding action midway through.
That's because
meantime.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
no, I'm saying that's because Dulorme is coming in. So anybody that's coming in on you, you can always, all you have to do is take a step back and throw some straight punches, and you'll catch him.
But I think what Brian's saying is very accurate, because Dulorme's got his hands up to thread the needle with a guy like Dulorme, and that takes talent. So Jamal James can thread that needle, and that's what's really exceptional about him. But you're 100% right.
That's an excellent point, Joe, because that's what's impressed me so far about James. Is right, he's also able to fire that right hand straight through the guard as well. See, the punches landed so far, power punches in favor of James, 39-26. Again, James just a little more aggressive than I anticipated early. And Dulorme, these guys are basically, Joe, Lennox, these guys are both mentally strong.
Yeah.
You can see that here in the ring now.
Yeah, James is a strong guy, but, you know, to keep a guy off you, you got to throw a punch to land. You got to land and be more authoritative with your punches. Especially with him, he's got to be more authoritative with that jab. You know, if Dulorme is coming in, he's got to feel something. So if he's not feeling anything, he's going to be coming in a lot quicker.
Lennox, what do you think of him when he doubles up on the jab like that? I know you had one of the best jabs in the heavyweight division. How tough is it to be able to double up on the jab like that all the time?
Well, for me, I threw power jabs, so you know, the one jab could do it, but double jab is always better because it opens the door for other punches.
Stop, straight back. No punch. Straight back.
Yeah, you don't see that from everyone out there. Again, yeah, your jab was very different. Again, yours was a poleaxing jab from a long distance. Good body shot by Dulorme, a hook to the body as he comes in a right hand. Well, Dulorme, very good with both hands. I tell you, he's got good power, hard straight right. He's fairly conventional, Joe, but he's got a wicked hook as well.
He does, and you know, he doubled up on that hook. You're right, he landed that body, but he came right back to the head. Jamal James had that right hand planted right next to his chin, because if he starts to drop that right hand with Dulorme's hook, he's going to be in trouble. He's got to really concentrate to get that right hand right next to his ear.
Hard shot by Dulorme, as again he just throws it straight out, and you see both men are kind of sinking in for the battle here. It's only the fourth round.
There's a lot on the... Oh, sorry, Brian. I was just going to say, there's a lot... Oh, good right hand by Jamal. There's a lot on the line for these guys. Remember, one guy's going to take a giant step backward, and the guy that wins is going into the welterweight sweepstakes, period.
You know, the scariest thing, Joe, is I was saying the same exact thing. That is frightening.
Oh, is that what you were going to say?
A lot on the line here, Joe. Well, again, you know, it is, you know, not quite a crossroads fight. I think, you know, either man with a good showing here will still be a good opponent, but only one guy can step up in that class and fight one of those superstar names. Right? We'll see Sean Porter in the next couple of weeks, one of those superstar welterweights. Your Dennis Ugas as well, but this is a very good fight so far. Jamal James and fights were extremely close as well, and that's what happens when the best fight the best. So I think we're seeing a decent example of that here tonight. Round 5 here in Los Angeles, and you see Thomas Dulorme in the white trunks with the gold trim, Jamal James backing up in the black trunks. And And this is going to be, well, I don't know. It seems difficult to score. I haven't really, Joe, I'll be honest, I haven't really thought about the scoring. Look at them digging in with the body shots yet. I haven't had time to think about the scoring yet.
Yeah, before we address that, let me tell you something. Joel Diaz, I guarantee you, gave the green light to Dulorme to put on the full court press right now. You saw he came out differently this round than the last couple of rounds, and let's see if he can sustain it. That's going to be important.
Moves his head well there as Jamal James went to fire back, and you see Dulorme digging in with a hook. So again, we're getting into these middle rounds. So let's go to Marcos Villegas and our unofficial score. Marcos, how do you see it so far?
First off, what a great fight so far. It's been back and forth. One fighter will win one round, the other one will win the other. So far, I have it 39-37 for Jamal James. I think, he's throwing the straighter punches, and they're landing. Dulorme sometimes is throwing loopy punches, but he's finding success when he goes and he digs at the body. When he does that, I give him the rounds, but so far I have Jamal James up.
Okay, thank you, Marcos. And look, you can have a guy say winning one round and then the next guy wins the next. Sometimes the guy wins the first half of the round and the other guy wins the second half of the round. These rounds have been close, and we're just going to keep tabs on it there with Marcos so you have an idea. That's a good right hand by James, but there is back and forth action, and I think to your point, Joe, that you made earlier, it's also precision punching. It's not a wild brawl, but it is hard precision shots.
No, you're exactly right. This is like you said, top of the food chain type of stuff. And right now, let me tell you something. It's a very close fight. When Jamal James is able to, good right hand, maintain his boxing ability and keep doing what he's doing, he's winning the round. Dulorme draws close, gets inside, he starts taking advantage of Jamal, and he starts winning the round. You're right, it's a tug of war right now.
But Jamal can do this. All he has to do is take a step back, throw a combination on the way back, because Dulorme is coming forward, so he will be there for the shots.
Yeah, he will be, but he's going to still keep coming. He may take a set, but like I said, it's that second and third effort by Dulorme that's going to get him inside and get his stuff off. Like right there, he took a shot coming in, but he also landed a good body shot as well. He's going to have to repeat that. He's going to absorb the punishment, but it's well worth it if he can get inside.
Pitched battle so far between these two. Again, it's a mental game. It is physical warfare as well. Good battle here in our main event. Two, plus Danny Garcia, Keith Thurman, Sean Porter, of course, Mikey Garcia now at welterweight, James at welterweight, Sergey Lipinets, who was trained by Joe Goosen at welterweight, and Virgil Ortiz, a rising star. So it's jam-packed, big names, and when they fight each other, it's something special, including here at kind of like a number 9 versus 11 or 12 type battle between James and Dulorme. Round 6 scheduled for 12, and you see James able to fight off the back foot, moving backwards as Dulorme throws a wicked body attack.
Yeah, but he has to be careful here because he could get caught with a powerful punch here. So he's still got to stick to his boxing. Still got to stick to his straight punches, his moving, and he's got to slow Dulorme down a little bit.
See, Dulorme's having a good first half of this round right now.
James able to block some of those hooks to the head, but he almost took James up in the air. James with a whistling right hand off the jaw of Dulorme. It looked like James was lifted up off his feet by one of those hooks. And again, when you have a 6'2" welterweight, I mean, Joe, you want to just chop him in half, right?
Well, you do, but see, that was a little behind the head there. The bottom line is Jamal James can fight on the inside. As a great pro, as a champion, you can't just have one style. Even if you're tall, you got to be able to fight guys against their own game. And Jamal James is capable of doing that. But let me just tell you, Dulorme is the more dangerous puncher in close.
Right, and Dulorme's fight in close. James needs to keep the fight on the outside. This is what he's fighting right now. He's fighting Dulorme's fight.
Here we go. He's going to get warned, about holding.
There's no way you can hit a little blow. You're only going to hit him back here.
Tom Taylor is warning Dulorme about hitting behind the head. That's the second time he's done that this round.
Well, you see, Dulorme even stopped himself after he hit James behind the head. He even looked to Taylor, Joe, to say, you should stop me from doing that. Good sportsmanship here, but again, this is a hard battle. They're going at it. Body shots from both men.
See, I don't like James bending down, but that's the style.
Bending down. He's raking Dulorme over the coals on the inside right now. Are you kidding?
That's like a 12-punch combination from Jamal James. Look at this go.
So I said he's capable of doing this. Is it smart the whole time? No, because he's going to get those in return because Dulorme is in such great shape.
I'll tell you, Dulorme with hard hooks to the body.
You listen. I don't want to hear it. Okay, listen to me. He's got your arm. Don't hit in the back of the head. Okay. Right, simple as that. You got to stop the holding. Let's go.
And Tom
Taylor there says, I don't want to hear it. Right. No, there's no excuses. It's happened more than once.
Tom Taylor is exactly right. Look, I like the rough stuff in the boxing game. You know, but there's one thing I don't like for the neck. So I like Tom Taylor jumping on that right away.
I'm with you, Joe.
Yeah, it's dangerous.
Round 7 scheduled for 12. Jamal James in the black trunks, Thomas Dulorme in the white with the gold trim. And again, it has been as expected in this fight, meaning a good battle. But Jamal James, to me, and you joked about it, Joe, saying the 100-punch combination.
Right.
He just kept throwing. To me, James is showing a little more fire than I even expected. Well, which is considerable. So perhaps that's the edge in this fight, but it's very, very close.
Well, I'll tell you what, you watch that fight with Jamal James and Ugas, which is the common opponent for both guys. Jamal James lost that fight, but let me tell you something. He came back. Every time Ugas really hit him good and hard with a good combination, Jamal James showed a lot of heart, and let me tell you, came back with great shots of his own. I expected him to fight like this.
No, I've seen that Ugas fight as well, and, Jamal James, he could have threw a little bit more power behind his punches, not turning over with his punches like he should to get that power. But he does throw good jabs, and even in this fight, he needs to throw a little more stronger jabs to stop Dulorme from coming forward.
Certain guys have a certain amount of strength, and right now, Jamal James is a 50% or less knockout, has a 50% or less knockout ratio. So he's not a big puncher. He's an accurate puncher. He's a volume puncher, and he's a boxer. He's the type of guy that'll pick you apart and do a lot of damage to you, but he may not knock you out with one punch.
He threw a great uppercut there and a great left hook.
I tell you, look at those hooks from Dulorme again. Just non-stop action in this round, and James able to move his head and get out of danger, but he's absorbing a lot of shots. And you're right, fellas, he's got a good jaw, got a good body too, because Dulorme has really tested that slim build of Jamal James.
Exactly, and remember something, Brian. Ugas knocked Dulorme down 2 times. He never knocked Jamal James down. Okay? Now, Dulorme also knocked down Ugas in their fight in the 7th round, but he got dropped twice. Did Dulorme against Ugas twice in the 2nd round, but turned the tables on Ugas and knocked him down in the 7th. So he's capable of hurting you late in the fight, Dulorme.
Well, that shows you that Dulorme is a good puncher. He's a heavy puncher, and so is Ugas, and both showed heavy punches in that same fight.
Even in the last fight, Dulorme's last fight, fellas, against Terrell Williams, he was cut from a headbutt, had a bad gash on his eyelid, and then in the 10th round, he went on a full all-out attack, got a knockdown with a beautiful hook, and got a clear-cut decision. Oh, and that's a good right hand from Jamal James.
Good couple of right hands.
He's been able to put a few right on the button on Dulorme.
Brian, that was 5 right hands in a row.
I counted 4.
Well, let's see the replay.
Listen for the bell, gentlemen.
Hard shot there in the
Lennox.
So, no, see, now, I want it noted that Joe's only concern there was having it right over Lennox. That was your only concern.
No, I got a bet with Lennox about a steak and lobster dinner tonight. That's a fact, okay?
Joe, what do you think of Diaz there, coming right after Dulorme?
He's right. He's exactly right. He's got to read him the right act, because right now Jamal James is taking control of this fight. He's doing what he wants. Dulorme's landing occasionally, and he did get hit with 5 right hands. Excuse me, Lennox. And look, oh, here we go. What? 1. You keep an eye on the other screen, Lennox. I got this one. Is that 2, 3, 4? Hold on.
Thank you very much.
Wait a minute. We didn't see the 5th one.
It's over. Steak and lobster Lennox,
No,
you tell Joe where and when.
Thank you very much, Joe.
No, it's over, Joe. Joe, admit it.
Okay.
Just be gracious.
Did we see the end of that tape? I don't know.
I feel it was complete.
Oh, you feel? You don't know.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you. We don't care about your feelings, Brian.
You know, as I said, I vowed to be nicer to you in quarantine. I thought I should be nicer to Joe Goosen, but now I've learned.
No. Don't forget that nice stuff. We're in the boxing game here. 132 punches to 78. Okay. So
by the way, they've both thrown about 480. They're both about even there, and it's been James, Joe, that's just been a bit more accurate, as you see right there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. He's doing a fantastic job still, keeping the fight at distance, which he's supposed to do, and he's winning when it's at distance. When he's allowing his opponent to get in there and punch him to the body, that's when it's bad.
Well, Joel Diaz can smell the fact that right now Dulorme's behind, and I think considerably, and he knows he's going to need something big to happen, and he's trying to encourage Dulorme to do it. I just don't know. Right now, it looks like Jamal James has got all the momentum going his way.
Yeah, winning rounds, and not by an awful lot. You can have a very competitive fight,
right.
but have it 12-zip. It can happen that way. I don't think it is that way. We'll get back to Marcos Villegas, but right, he is sensing that the fight is slipping away, while we can acknowledge that Dulorme is a dangerous man to the last bell.
Right hands, and those kind of buzzed Dulorme. You could tell by the way he reacted to him. And Jamal James, I think, is finding the range with that right hand and really starting to hurt Dulorme.
Yeah, I agree with that. He is finding the range with that right hand and is throwing it when Dulorme is coming in. Yeah. And that's the right time to throw it, because Dulorme is coming in with a big punch. Catch him in the middle of that and slow him down.
James able to shoot that right hand in. Dulorme able to slip that at that point, but it's been a very effective weapon. You see the punches landed there in the corner of the screen as the gap is widening for Jamal James.
You're right about the right hand missing, but you know what Jamal James did? He landed a little left hook right after, like that, see? So it was an awkward position.
That's called the clean-up hook.
Explain that, Lennox.
Yeah, after you throw your punches, after you throw your left-right hand combination, you throw a clean-up hook just to catch anything that's leaving.
Wow, so you heard once again, and Heidi, thank you for that. It seems on the, from our aspect on the telecast here that, Joel Diaz can be heard throughout the city. You tell me, how effective is that, Joe Goosen? At a certain point, is Dulorme not listening, or is he unable to do what Diaz wants?
Listen, he would love to do what Joel Diaz is asking him. He just can't. Jamal James is the class fighter in here tonight. He's the one who's sticking to his game plan. He's luring Dulorme in. Dulorme's walking into combinations just like that, and he's getting out just like that. He's been doing it all night. He's been racking up points, and Joel Diaz is getting frustrated, and he's bummed out. He's worked really hard for this fight. They thought they were going to win, and it doesn't look like that's going to happen.
And it's the boxer against the puncher. And who usually wins? The boxer.
Well, not Mike Tyson. Well, maybe against you.
Yeah, you're talking to the pugilist specialist.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but again, there are plenty of pressure fighters like Chavez, Joe Frazier, and Tyson that took out a lot of boxer movers.
Oh yeah. They weren't good boxers.
But in this instance, you were great that night. I was there when you knocked out Mike. But in this instance here, Jamal James, he's the class in the ring tonight. As much as Dulorme wants to win, and he's a great fighter, and he's still going to have a say in this division. But Jamal James is just being great right now.
I tell you, Dulorme with a hard right hand, though, too, fellas. And James, it's a good word, Joe, class. The way he's been able to be accurate with his shots and his combinations. Yeah. But Dulorme, while we're talking back and forth about the fight and boxers versus punchers, Dulorme is able to land some hard hooks to the body. Sure. James just able to absorb them.
Yeah, and James can't be in that position where he's got his head down like that, so Dulorme can come up with an overhand right. So he's got to be careful. He's got to keep his defense in tight.
I don't think I'm social distancing far enough from you, Lennox, because that jab hand hit me from all the... Believe me, I'm taking a little bit of punishment over here, Brian.
I would hope.
That's so I can get a word in.
Scheduled for 12.
Oh, boy.
And here again, a good firefight here, but again, it has been where Jamal James has been tested and has been able to stay within his plan and able to execute it physically, which is difficult. Dulorme is going to make that very difficult for you. Good hard body shot there by James. And James has been able to throw multiple jabs. Dulorme able to slip in the final seconds here of round number 10. And still just a defensive exhibition here.
Yep.
As we get where they're going to have to dig deep. They have thrown a lot of punches. Both men have thrown over 640 punches, and now they will have to dig even deeper. Let's go to Marcos Villegas first before we get to round 11. Marcos, how do you have it scored so far?
I have Jamal James up in this fight. I've had him winning the last 5 rounds. He's been accurate. He's been money with that right hand. And the thing is this, there's been some close rounds where I feel that Dulorme is getting the better of it, and they don't get caught with the big punch. And Jamal James will follow it up with a series of other punches that'll make Dulorme lose that round. So up to this point, 98-92 for Jamal James.
All right, so you have it 8 rounds to 2 so far, and maybe some rounds are close. A lot of times you kind of circle some close rounds, but there have been a few. But I think that's the sense that we all get here, is that James has been winning rounds, and it will come down to if Dulorme can pull something out and get some sort of knockdown or knockout, and he's been able to get knockdowns in the 12th round before.
Yeah, Brian. Dulorme, when he went back to the corner, his corner was on fire. Diaz gave it to him. He said, you better go out there and do some stuff.
To put it mildly.
To put it mildly, yes.
Way to clean that up, Lennox. Thank you. See the punches thrown there. 674 to 666. Landed 182 to 102. And that's kind of been the story of this. The body shots. Dulorme actually has a body shot advantage, 52 to 42. And he has those short hooks to the body. But that's kind of the tail right there. James able to stay just a little bit farther back and land his combinations straight up the middle.
And for as tall as Jamal James is, he's been getting underneath a lot of punches, especially the left hooks by Dulorme, and getting out. So, you know, he's using every advantage and every trick in the book he has. And right now, it looks like Dulorme needs a knockout to win this fight. I don't think it's a stretch to say that.
Right, and that's another good hook that he just dug into James's body, where James was able to just back up and absorb it. I mean, that takes fortitude to be able to take that type of attack. Dulorme is a strong welterweight.
Yeah, and as we were talking right there, and Jamal James has landed another straight right hand, and just 10 seconds earlier, he landed 2 straight right hands. They're just piling up one after another. He can't miss with the right hand off of Dulorme.
Yeah, James is doing well in this fight. He's moving well. In his last fight against DeMarco, he was more flat-footed. But this fight is really light on his feet, and this is what he needed to be. Good combinations.
Yeah, Jamal James able to go straight up the middle. We're going to keep it here between rounds before we get to the 12th round.
Got a damage underneath the left eye, no blood.
Tom Taylor now, let's listen in.
Watch those heads, okay? You all right? You okay?
That was a head, bud.
Let's go.
We are going to listen into both corners, and it has not been quiet in Dulorme's corner with Joel Diaz, and you see the fire from Dulorme.
I mean, I think it's obvious he needs a knockout. I think the confidence and it belongs in the Jamal James corner, and they know they've got this fight in a runaway.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, all he has to do is stay away from him for 3 rounds, use his jab, use his right hand, and that clean-up hook.
There's that right hand right there.
Jamal James up on his toes here, the final 3 minutes, round 12. As competitive as he has been, Thomas Dulorme likely needs more, according to our scorecards. Marcos Villegas, and seemingly from the corners as well, CompuBox stats, all telling the tale of Jamal James, who has just boxed beautifully here tonight and has shown, again, a lot of fire. Multiple combinations, a lot of strength. It's not like he's just been pecking from the outside. He has stood in and traded with the stronger Dulorme and has really made a great account of himself here tonight. Up and flashing a jab. Dulorme running out of time, but as we mentioned, his last fight, he got a knockdown against Terrell Williams. Got a knockdown against Jesse Vargas. Both of those knockdowns came in the 10th and final rounds of those fights. So I'd said 12th earlier, but they both came in the 10th, but those were the final rounds. rounds. And this now, the 12th and final round of this bout.
And you got to give credit to the trainers, especially Sankara Frazier, Jamal James's trainer and stepfather, who put together a great game plan. And boy, did they stick to it. It was brilliant. Against a very, very aggressive, hard-hitting guy who's also trained by a great trainer, Joel Diaz, former Chelsea.
And that's part of it too, Joe, is that when he goes into the corner, I think if someone's just tuning in, they think, oh, well, Dulorme's really disappointing his corner. I think Dulorme has not stunk it out here tonight. He's worked hard. He has just gone up against a guy who has had, as you mentioned, a beautiful game plan and has been able to stick to it and absorb some punishment as well.
Absolutely. And you know, you got a tip of the hat to Jamal James's corner. They did a great job.
Oh, yeah. And, you know, the improvement in his past fights compared to this one is incredible.
You know, sometimes guys are just made for you, too. I think Dulorme is just made for Jamal James's style. Would you not agree?
Yeah, I mean, he's a boxer.
He's able to get that right hand in from the get-go. You're right about that, Joe. And look, nothing comes easy for Jamal James. He had that one loss to Yordenis Ugas, and that was like kind of a last-minute matchup. He wanted to have a full camp. He'd love to have a full camp and face Ugas. And since then, he has won 6 in a row. Yeah. And the combined record for his opponents, 138-13. He's matched fairly tough every time out. And he was matched tough here tonight as well. Dulorme moving in, final seconds of this fight.
Ladies and gentlemen, after 12 rounds of action, we go to the scorecards. Judge at ringside, Alejandro Rochin scores the bout 115 to 113. Zachary Young sees the bout 116 to 112. Dr. Lou Moret scores the action 117 points to 111. All three in favor of the winner. He is now the interim WBA welterweight world champion, Jamal Shango James.
Well, interesting in that the judges did not see it a blowout, because it certainly wasn't. But 7 rounds to 5, 8 rounds to 4, 9 rounds to 3. So, again, not a huge swing there in what was a very competitive bout. We just felt that James was getting the better of it. He did. We believe the better man won. But interesting. Again,